They say happiness never lasts forever. But for Joe and Olga Connell, they never imagined that their perfect life would be brutally cut short. One fateful night, the young couple was murdered right outside their home, sending shockwaves through Wilmington, Delaware. Who could be so heartless to take their lives? Was it a robbery gone wrong, or was this a premeditated crime? This story will leave you chilled to the bone. Joe Connell was the embodiment of success. Raised in a loving family, he had ambition and determination that set him apart. He had an unwavering work ethic, something instilled in him by his hard-working parents. After years of dedication, he co-founded a thriving machine shop with his best friend Christopher Rivers. The business flourished, giving Joe a stable and prosperous future. For Joe, nothing mattered more than family. He was a loyal son, a devoted brother, and an exceptional friend. But most of all, he was a loving husband. His marriage to Olga Connell was something out of a fairy tale. Olga was not only beautiful but also intelligent and strong-willed. Born and raised in Russia, she had dreams of a better life and worked hard to achieve them. When she met Joe, she found someone who matched her ambition and shared her vision of a happy future. The two fell deeply in love, and soon after they were married. They built a beautiful home together, had thriving careers, and planned to start a family. Everything seemed perfect, but then, everything came crashing down. On the night of September 22nd, Joe and Olga returned home after an enjoyable evening out. The couple had spent the night celebrating, a dinner date filled with laughter and plans for the future. As they pulled into their driveway, they were completely unaware that someone was waiting for them in the shadows. Joe exited the car first, reaching for Olga's hand as she stepped out. It was in that moment that a dark figure emerged from the darkness, a gun glinting under the dim porch light. Before either of them could react, gunshots rang out into the night. Joe was struck first. The bullets tore through his body and he collapsed instantly. Olga screamed, but before she could run, more shots were fired. One bullet pierced her shoulder, another struck her stomach. She staggered forward, trying desperately to call for help, but the pain was overwhelming. Within seconds, she collapsed beside her husband. Neighbors were startled by the terrifying screams. Some peered through their windows, while others rushed outside to see what had happened. But by the time they arrived, all they found were the lifeless bodies of Joe and Olga, lying under the dim glow of the streetlights, blood pooling around them. A brutal murder, but who was the killer? At first, the police suspected a random armed robbery, but as they investigated further, they uncovered strange inconsistencies. Why had nothing been stolen? Why had the killer targeted them so specifically? Something wasn't adding up. Detectives soon learned that Joe had recently had a dispute with his sister, Kelly Connell, over a family heirloom, a diamond ring that had belonged to their mother. Kelly had wanted the ring, but Joe refused to part with it. Some family members whispered that Kelly had been furious, that she had even threatened to take action against Joe. Was this a case of sibling rivalry turned deadly? Had Kelly hired someone to kill her own brother over a piece of jewelry? But as the detectives dug deeper, another suspect emerged, one with a far more sinister motive: Christopher Rivers, Joe's business partner and supposed best friend. Christopher Rivers had once been Joe's closest friend. They had built their business from the ground up, and for years they had been inseparable. But something had changed over time. Chris had personal struggles, addiction, mounting debt, and an unstable mental state. As their business flourished, Joe continued to thrive, while Chris felt increasingly overshadowed. He resented Joe's success, his beautiful wife, his seemingly perfect life. That resentment festered, growing into something dangerous. Investigators uncovered a disturbing truth. Chris had been plotting against Joe for months. He saw Joe not as a friend, but as an obstacle standing in the way of his own financial gain. Chris had secretly funneled money out of the business, engaging in risky deals that left him drowning in debt. And when Joe began questioning company finances, Chris knew he was running out of time, so he made a horrifying decision. The police discovered that Chris had hired a hitman to execute the murder. As they pieced together the puzzle, incriminating text messages and phone calls between Chris and the assassin revealed the chilling truth. Chris was the mastermind behind the killing. He had orchestrated the attack, ensuring that Joe and Olga would never be able to expose his deceit. After months of investigation, Christopher Rivers was arrested. He denied his involvement, feigning shock and grief, but the evidence was undeniable. In the courtroom, as the prosecutor laid bare his cold-blooded scheme, the audience watched in horror and disgust. The once successful businessman and close friend was revealed to be nothing more than a greedy, heartless murderer. Joe and Olga's family sat in the courtroom, listening to the gruesome details of how their loved ones had been betrayed. Tears flowed as they heard how Chris had plotted every step, how he had stood by Joe's side for years while secretly harboring deadly intentions. The jury took little time to deliberate. Christopher Rivers was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Justice had been served, but no punishment could ever bring back Joe and Olga or heal the devastation left behind. Joe and Olga Connell could have had a beautiful future. They were young, in love, and ready to take on the world together, but greed, betrayal, and hatred stole it all away. This story serves as a grim reminder: sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't a stranger, it's the one closest to you.